Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking on a topic that sounds, well, intensely bureaucratic, but it actually sits right at the heart of public service. We're talking about progressive discipline.
It's a term that anyone in HR knows inside and out, but for most people, it just sounds like the hammer waiting to fall.
Right.
But the truth is, it's so much more than a checklist. If you peel back the layers, you find it's this framework that's wrestling with some of the biggest questions we have: fairness and accountability.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to look past the procedures, past the forms, to understand why this approach is so essential for building trust in our institutions. We're pulling from public administration texts, HR management sources like Berman and Bowman, and we're even going to bring in Michael Sandel's work on justice.
Because really, at its core, how an organization deals with a mistake or a performance issue, that's a moral question. It's about how we treat people while still upholding the standards the public rightly expects.
Okay, let's unpack this. I think we have to start with the basics, just to get a foundational understanding of what we're even talking about. The structure itself is so important here.
Precisely. Progressive discipline is really just a methodical, predetermined sequence of steps.
A ladder, basically.
Ladder is a great way to put it. It's designed for managers to address problems in a systematic way. And the goal is correction, not punishment. That's key.
So what does that ladder, that sequence, usually look like in most public organizations?
It's almost always a rising scale of severity. It starts with something informal. A coaching session, maybe a documented verbal warning.
Yeah.
That's the first rung.
The early intervention.
Exactly. If the problem continues, then you move to the formal stages. First, a written warning. That usually goes into the employee's official file.
And that's when things start to feel much more serious.
Absolutely. The next step up from there might be a suspension, paid or unpaid, or maybe a final, very serious written warning. And only after all those steps have failed to fix the issue. Only then does an organization move to the final stage.
Termination.
Termination.
And I think this is the key insight, the thing that almost everyone misses. Progressive discipline is not designed to punish people.
No.
It's designed to help them improve. It's fundamentally a developmental tool that's just, dressed up as a compliance procedure.
That distinction changes everything, especially in public service.
Yeah.
The whole point is to be constructive, to help employees understand the expectations, and to be fair by being consistent. If you see it as remediation first, then the employee is an asset you're trying to save, not a liability you're trying to get rid of.
And for public service values specifically, the whole process has to align with things like transparency, equity, respect for dignity. You can't claim to be fair to the public if you're not fair to your own people.
And when it's done right, it really protects everyone. It protects the employee from a manager having a bad day, it protects the supervisor by justifying their decisions, and it protects the public's trust by showing that standards are actually being enforced.
You mentioned the public, and that's a perfect transition. Why are the stakes for this so much higher in government compared to, say, the private sector?
It really comes down to who you answer to. A private company answers to its shareholders. Public institutions answer to the public. And that means every single one of these decisions has to stand up to much, much tougher scrutiny.
So what does that scrutiny look like in practice? What are the specific mandates that make this so much heavier?
Well, you're talking about layers of protection. First, you have due process requirements. This isn't just a vague idea. It means employees have specific rights. They have to be given clear notice of what's being proposed.
So no surprises.
No surprises. They need to see the evidence against them, and this is critical. They have to be given a real opportunity to respond and tell their side of the story before a final decision is made.
So it's a formal legal obligation to hear them out.
It is. And on top of that, you have union contracts, civil service rules. These often spell out the exact sequence of steps you have to follow. And then there's the constant demand for transparency because, it's public money and public trust on the line.
That level of accountability it's on another level. And it makes sense that the public expects government to model fairness. If a public agency can't even treat its own people justly, its legitimacy just takes a nosedive.
That's the critical message it sends. If you handle your internal affairs unfairly, why should anyone trust you with, big societal problems?
And this all circles back to a really crucial point. A process can't be fair if the employee didn't know what was expected of them in the first place.
That's the foundation. Fairness requires proactive communication, clear job descriptions, good orientation, regular performance reviews, ongoing feedback. The documentation isn't just a record of failure, it's proof that the employee had every chance to succeed.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's take this very grounded HR policy and connect it to something much bigger. Michael Sandel's philosophical principles of justice. This really shows how deep the implications go.
It's a fantastic way to look at it. So let's take a simple scenario. Imagine a public works technician who started showing up late all the time. It's messing up the whole morning schedule. How would a manager handle that through Sandel's three lenses?
Okay, let's start with framework one, utilitarian justice. That's all about maximizing the overall good, right? The greatest good for the greatest number.
Exactly. So the utilitarian manager is focused on the team, on the work unit. The tardiness is bad because it slows down service delivery and stresses out the rest of the crew. So progressive discipline is justified because it maximizes the good for everyone else.
It optimizes the system.
Right. It gets the technician to correct their behavior, which protects the team's efficiency. The benefit to the whole group outweighs the discomfort of the one person being disciplined.
Got it. Now, what about framework two, libertarian justice? That's more about individual rights and free choice.
The libertarian lens doesn't care as much about the team's output. It asks, did the technician get their due process? Were they warned? Did they get to respond?
So it's all about the process being fair to the individual.
Precisely. The step-by-step process is inherently libertarian because it prevents the manager from acting arbitrarily. It protects the employee's right to a fair hearing, no matter how disruptive they've been.
Okay, and then the third lens, which always feels like the most challenging one, virtue and the common good. This asks what kind of community we're trying to create.
And this is where it moves beyond just rules and outcomes. The virtue framework asks the manager, what values are we reinforcing here? It's not just about fixing the lateness. It's about using this as a chance to reinforce a culture of accountability, responsibility, and mutual respect.
So it's about modeling what the institution stands for.
That's it exactly. The goal becomes community building, not just rule enforcement.
When you put all three of those together, it seems like the big takeaway is that justice isn't just about rules, it's about relationships.
It absolutely is. You can follow every single rule in the book, document every conversation perfectly, but if there isn't a basic layer of trust, the whole thing falls apart. If a manager uses the process as a weapon instead of a safeguard, it will always feel unjust to the employee, no matter what the paperwork says.
That brings us to the core tensions. Because implementing this stuff, it's not easy. What are the biggest pitfalls managers face?
The first one is that tightrope walk between consistency and flexibility. You have to apply the rules equitably. That's consistency.
But if you're too rigid, you ignore the context. Was the person late because of a family emergency, or is it just a chronic problem that matters?
It matters a lot. But then if you lean too far into flexibility and you treat similar situations differently, you open yourself up to accusations of favoritism. And in public service, even the perception of inequity can be incredibly damaging to morale.
Another big one has to be what we could call the avoidance pitfall. I mean, these are uncomfortable conversations.
They're deeply uncomfortable. Most managers dread them, so they put them off, hoping the problem will just go away on its own. They skip that crucial informal coaching step at the beginning.
And what's the result of that avoidance?
It's not progressive discipline anymore. It's sudden discipline.
Yeah.
The employee hasn't heard anything for months, and then boom, they get a formal written warning out of the blue because the manager finally snapped. It feels completely arbitrary.
Which leads right into the punitive trap. The manager's mindset shifts from, how do I help this person, to, how do I punish them for making my life difficult?
And once you go down that road, everyone loses. Motivation is destroyed. Trust is gone. The goal has to stay on development and improvement.
Okay, so given all those challenges, what does good, effective, progressive discipline actually look like? Let's turn this into some best practices.
All right, number one has to be clarity and transparency. Employees have to know the standards. That means good orientation, clear job descriptions, regular feedback. There should never be a surprise about what the rule is.
Number two, prioritize the informal steps. Before you even start climbing that formal ladder, invest time in coaching. So many issues can be resolved with a simple, private conversation.
Three is timeliness. You have to address problems when they happen. If a manager waits months to bring something up, the employee is going to rightly question why it's suddenly a big deal now. It just feels unfair.
4, documentation is a safeguard, not a weapon. We have to see paperwork as a tool for fairness. It's there to show that actions are justified and consistent. It protects the manager just as much as it protects the employee.
Number 5, consistency with judgment. Yes, you have to apply rules equitably, but you also have to use your judgment to consider the context, the severity, the intent, the employee's history. You have to differentiate between a minor slip-up and willful misconduct.
And finally, number 6.
Treat with dignity. Always. Even when you're delivering bad news, the process has to reflect the values of the organization. You're rejecting a behavior, not the person.
So when you pull it all together, what does it all mean? It seems like progressive discipline is really a system designed to guide people toward doing better, not to catch them doing something wrong.
Exactly. It's a developmental and protective system. And in public service, that commitment to fairness is just non-negotiable. The authority a manager holds over someone's livelihood demands a responsibility to treat them justly and give them a real chance to succeed.
And when it's done well, it doesn't weaken trust in an organization. It actually strengthens it.
So let's leave you with the final thought to mull over. If justice is truly built on the relationship between a manager and an employee, what are all the unseen daily behaviors, the little things, beyond the formal paperwork, that are required to make that final, most severe step, termination, feel like a just and inevitable outcome, rather than just an arbitrary punishment?
All right.
Think about all the trust that has to be built long before that hammer ever falls.